1941, a date which will live in infamy.
America before the storm. On the morning of December 7, 1941, the United States woke up to what would become one of the most defining moments in its history. A moment that would push the nation into the deadliest conflict the world has ever seen, and reshape global power for generations. This is the story of the attack on Pearl Harbor, how it happened, why it happened, and how it changed America and the world forever. To understand Pearl Harbor, we must rewind to the years before the attack. The 1930s had been a time of economic depression and global tensions. Germany and Italy were expanding aggressively in Europe and North Africa. Japan was growing its empire across East Asia, invading Manchuria in 1931 and expanding deeper into China afterward. Meanwhile, the United States was cautiously watching from a distance. Most Americans believed in isolationism, staying out of foreign wars. The painful memories of World War I were still fresh. Congress passed laws limiting involvement overseas. President Franklin D. Roosevelt faced pressure from both sides. Those who wanted neutrality, and those who warned the world was heading toward disaster. But across the Pacific, Japan saw America not as a distant observer, but as a looming obstacle. Part 2: Japan's imperial ambitions. By the late 1930s, Japan had ambitions of creating a vast empire called the Greater East Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere. But to do that, it needed resources: oil, steel, rubber, and access to shipping routes. The United States supplied over 80% of Japan's oil. When Japan continued its brutal expansion into China, the U.S. responded with embargoes, especially on oil. This was a severe blow. Japan faced a dilemma: either back down or secure the resources by force. Japan's military believed they had only one chance of success: a sudden crippling strike on the U.S. Pacific Fleet based at Pearl Harbor. If they could destroy American battleships, aircraft, and fuel supplies, they hoped the U.S. would accept Japan's dominance in Asia instead of entering a long war. It was a desperate gamble, but the planning had already begun. Part 3: Build up to the attack. In early 1941, Japan assigned Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto to design a bold and risky plan. Yamamoto was no ordinary commander. He had studied in the United States and understood its economic power. He once said, "I will run wild for 6 months, but I cannot guarantee success after that." He knew Japan could not win a long war against the industrial giant, but he believed that a knockout blow might force negotiations. Meanwhile, American intelligence had partially broken Japanese diplomatic codes. A series of political messages suggested something was coming, but no one could determine where or when. Many believed the Philippines or British Malaya would be the targets. Hawaii, nearly 4,000 miles from Japan, felt secure. But Japan's strike force was already on the early morning. 3:42 a.m. First sign of trouble. Part 4: December 7, 1941. The attack. 2 U.S. radar operators on Oahu detect an unusually large group of aircraft. They report it, but the officer in charge assumes it's a group of American B-17 bombers arriving from California. The warning is dismissed. 6:00 a.m. Japanese carriers launch. 6 Japanese carriers launched the first wave. 183 aircraft fighters, torpedo bombers, and dive bombers. They head toward Oahu in total radio silence. 7:55 am air raid Pearl Harbor. This is not a drill. The first wave strikes Pearl Harbor. It begins with torpedo bombers skimming low over the water. The battleships lined neatly along Battleship Row become perfect targets. The USS Arizona. A bomb pierces its forward ammunition magazines. A massive explosion tears the ship apart. More than 1,100 men lose their lives instantly. The USS Oklahoma. Struck by multiple torpedoes, she capsizes within minutes. Hundreds are trapped inside. The second wave focuses on airfields, destroying dozens of planes on the ground before they can take off. At Hickam, Wheeler, and Ford Island, aircraft burn in rows. American pilots scramble to fight back. A few, like Lieutenants Taylor and Welch, managed to take to the skies and engage the attackers. But for most, the battle is hopeless. The element of surprise is overwhelming. In just 90 minutes, the attack devastates Pearl Harbor. 8 battleships damaged or sunk. 3 cruisers damaged. 3 destroyers damaged or sunk. 188 U.S. aircraft destroyed. 2,403 Americans killed. 1,178 wounded. Yet, despite the devastation, Japan's mission is incomplete. They failed to destroy American aircraft carriers which were out at sea, fuel storage tanks. These omissions will prove critical. Roosevelt's address. Part 5 America Response. President Franklin D. Roosevelt calls December 7th, a date which will live in infamy. Within minutes, Congress votes for war. The United States, divided and isolationist for years, unites almost overnight. Japan's miscalculation. Japan hoped America would negotiate. Instead, the attack ignites public fury. Factories shift from Depression-era slowness to full wartime speed. Millions enlist. The U.S. joins both the Pacific War and the European conflict, forming the Allied powers alongside the UK, Soviet Union, and China. The attack that was meant to weaken America had awakened a sleeping giant. Part 6 The War That Followed. The United States enters a global conflict on 2 fronts. Against Japan in the Pacific. Against Germany and Italy in Europe. The attack on Pearl Harbor leads directly to major turning points. U.S. forces sink 4 Japanese carriers, the same ones used at Pearl Harbor. From Guadalcanal to Okinawa, U.S. forces push Japan back island by island. After years of brutal fighting, the United States drops atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Japan surrenders in September 1945. Conclusion: How December 7th changed the world. December 7th, 1941, reshaped American identity and global history. It ended decades of isolationism and transformed the United States into a world superpower. It marked the beginning of World War II for America, a war that would redefine nations, technology, diplomacy, and the structure of international power. Today, the wreck of the USS Arizona rests beneath the waters of Pearl Harbor, a memorial to the thousands who died that morning. Their sacrifice reminds us of the cost of war and the importance of peace.